The sterile hum of fluorescent lights pierced through the haze of Chloe Robinson's consciousness, pulling her from the depths of a dreamless void. Her eyelids fluttered open heavy, as if weighted by invisible chains, and the world around her came into focus in fragments: white walls, beeping monitors, the faint scent of antiseptic that clung to the air like an unwelcome memory. This wasn't her cramped apartment in Brooklyn, the one she'd shared with her aunt during high school, where the sounds of traffic and distant sirens lulled her to sleep. No, this was a hospital room, pristine and impersonal, the kind you'd see in those glossy Manhattan high-rises where the elite sought refuge from their polished lives. Chloe's heart raced, a frantic drumbeat echoing in her chest. She was 18 again, or at least her mind insisted. The last thing she remembered was sneaking out to a college party in Harlem, her first taste of freedom after graduating from an underfunded public school. Laughter music, the thrill of possibility. But now, her body felt foreign, heavier, marked by time she couldn't account for. She glanced down at her hands, stronger, more callous than she recalled, and caught sight of a thin scar on her wrist, fresh and bandaged. Panic surged through her veins like ice water. "Where am I?" she whispered, her voice hoarse, cracking under the weight of confusion. A kind-faced nurse with a clipboard entered the room, her scrubs emblazoned with the logo of New York Presbyterian Hospital. "Mrs. White, you're awake. Thank goodness. You've been out for a while after the incident." Mrs. White. The words landed like a blow, knocking the breath from her lungs. Chloe's mind reeled. White, that name evoked images of towering skyscrapers, billion-dollar deals splashed across Forbes covers, and a man whose face had haunted her teenage dreams. Henry White. The golden boy of American tech was a dauntless entrepreneur who'd risen from Silicon Valley startups to dominating Wall Street with his investment empire. She'd idolized him from afar, clipping articles about his philanthropy and staring at his photos in magazines. His sharp jawline and piercing blue eyes symbolized unattainable success. But married, to her, a black girl from Brooklyn's rough edges. The nurse continued, oblivious to the storm brewing in Chloe's soul. "Your husband was notified, but he's in a board meeting. He said not to worry, that you'd be fine. Do you need anything? Water, pain meds. Husband." The word tasted bitter, foreign on her tongue. Chloe's fingers trembled as she reached for the mirror on the bedside table. Her reflection stared back, older, yes, 23 perhaps, with fuller curves and a weariness in her deep brown eyes that spoke of battles fought in silence. Her dark curls were pulled back, revealing a faint bruise on her neck. What had happened? A suicide attempt, the nurse had implied earlier, a desperate slash at her wrists born from despair. But why her life at 18 had been full of promised scholarships to NYU, dreams of breaking into the beauty industry as a reviewer, amplifying voices like hers in a world that often overlooked black women. As fragments of memory teased at the edges of her mind, Chloe pieced together the impossible. 5 years lost, evaporated like morning mist over the Hudson River. She'd married Henry White. How? When? The thought sent a shiver, a mix of awe and terror, down her spine. He was the epitome of white privilege, a man whose family traced its lineage back to old money in the Hamptons, while she was the daughter of a single mother who'd scraped by in public housing. Their worlds shouldn't have collided, let alone merged in matrimony. Yet she was bound to him in a union that now felt like a cage. The door swung open again, this time admitting a doctor, his white coat crisp against the muted tones of the room. "Mrs. White, good to see you responsive. The cut was deep, but we've stitched it up. However, the trauma might have caused some retrograde amnesia, memory loss from the past few years. It's not uncommon after such emotional distress. We'll run tests. But rest is key. Amnesia. The word hung in the air, heavy with implication. Chloe nodded numbly, her mind racing. If she'd forgotten 5 years, what horrors had driven her to this edge? As the medical team bustled around her, she overheard whispers about Henry's indifference, how he'd dismissed the call about her condition as another episode. Her heart ached a dull throb that spread through her chest. Was this the man she'd once adored? The one whose speeches on innovation and equality had inspired her to dream big hours, blurred into a haze of tests, MRIs humming like distant thunder, psychologists probing gently at the voids in her recall. By evening, Chloe was alone again, the city lights of Manhattan twinkling outside her window like distant stars. She reached for her phone, a sleek device she didn't recognize, and scrolled through contacts. Henry's name was saved simply as husband, no emojis, no warmth. Besides this, Emily Green, Henry's childhood friend from the elite circles of Connecticut, is now a rising star in the cosmetics world, with her brand Evergreen Beauty, headquartered in Los Angeles. A text from Emily popped up. Henry, darling, hope everything's okay with her. Let me know if you need to talk. Dinner soon, XO. Chloe's blood boiled, a fierce heat rising in her cheeks. Emily, blonde, poised, the perfect embodiment of white femininity that society exalted. Chloe had seen her in tabloids, always at Henry's side, during galas, their laughter captured in glossy photos. Was this the source of her despair? A marriage shadowed by another woman's presence, amplified by the racial divides that still fractured America. As night fell, Chloe's resolve hardened like steel, forged in fire. She wouldn't be the fragile girl from Brooklyn anymore, clinging to a man who saw her as an obligation. No, she'd reclaim her narrative, drawing strength from the resilient women who'd paved her path, icons like Michelle Obama, whose grace under pressure she'd emulated in her youth. The amnesia, cruel as it was, offered a clean slate. She'd unravel the secrets of these lost years, confront the cultural shock of her interracial marriage, and emerge stronger, her spirit unbroken. The next morning brought visitors first. Alex Brown, her childhood friend from Brooklyn, his warm smile a beacon in the sterile room. Chloe, girl, you scared me half to death. When I heard about the attempt, what happened? Henry's been radio silent. Alex's presence grounded her, and his dark skin and easy laugh were reminders of home. They talked in hushed tones, Chloe confessing her memory gaps. I remember us at 18 hustling for scholarships, but now married to Henry White. It feels like a fever dream. Alex's eyes softened, laced with concern. You two met at an NYU fundraiser. He was smitten, said you had fire in your eyes. But marriage, it was rushed after some misunderstanding at a party. You've been fighting ever since, especially with Emily hovering like a ghost. The misunderstanding, Chloe pressed, and Alex hesitated before revealing a night of too much champagne. A heated moment that led to intimacy and Henry's sense of duty, pushing them to the altar. No drugs, no coercion, just youthful impulsivity magnified by his status. But the union had cracked under pressure. Henry's long hours building his empire, Chloe's isolation in their penthouse overlooking Central Park, and the whispers of society questioning a black woman in white elite spaces. As Alex left, promising to check in, Chloe's phone buzzed. Henry. Busy with meetings. The doctor says you're stable. Rest up. No warmth, no visit. The message stung sharply, contrasting the romantic ideals she'd once held. In her mind's eye, she pictured Henry as he'd been in those early photos, tall, commanding his fair hair, catching the light eyes like stormy seas. But now, he was a stranger, his indifference a wall she couldn't scale. Determined, Chloe discharged herself against advice, hailing a cab to their shared apartment in the Upper East Side, a sprawling luxury space that screamed opulence. Marble floors, floor-to-ceiling windows framing the city skyline, and art pieces worth millions. It felt alien, a gilded cage. Rifling through drawers, she found photos their wedding in the Hamptons. Chloe radiant in white lace, Henry stoic beside her. But behind the smiles lurked tension. His mother's tight-lipped expression whispers of mismatch. A journal caught her eye, pages filled with her handwriting from the lost years. Entries poured out like confessions. Today. Henry defended Emily again. Her brand's in trouble, FDA violations, but he bails her out with millions. Meanwhile, I'm here invisible. Tears welled as Chloe read of her struggles, microaggressions at galas, feeling like an outsider in a world of privilege. Her blog on black beauty products sidelined by Henry's company politics. The cultural shock hit hard. Marrying across racial lines in America wasn't the fairy tale the media portrayed. It was battles against prejudice, internalized doubts, and the weight of representation. With her melanin-rich skin and unapologetic curls, Chloe had become a symbol. Henry's progressive choice, but at what cost to her soul? Evening brought a knock. Emily Green herself, bouquet in hand, her porcelain features arranged in faux concern. Chloe, dear, I heard. Henry asked me to check on you. He's swamped with the LA expansion. The audacity ignited something fierce in Chloe. Swamped or avoiding, and you always the messenger. What's your game, Emily? Emily's smile faltered a crack in her polished facade. Game. We're friends, Chloe. Henry and I go way back. Connecticut summers, Yale connections. You know how it is. But Chloe didn't know or remember. The tension crackled Emily's words, laced with subtle barbs. It's tough, fitting into our world. But you're trying. Our world. The phrase echoed a reminder of the divides Chloe had crossed. She sent Emily away, her resolve crystallizing. No more playing the victim. She'd rebuild, leveraging her amnesia as armor. Calling Alex, she plotted her escape, a new job, independence away from Henry's shadow. As stars dotted the Manhattan sky, Chloe stood at the window, the city pulsing below like a living heart. The secrets of her marriage unraveled thread by thread, revealing a tapestry of love twisted by neglect and societal chains. But in this awakening, she found power, a black woman's unyielding spirit ready to rewrite her story in ink of her own choosing. The road ahead promised storms, but Chloe Robinson was no longer lost. She was found fierce and free. In the quiet aftermath of her hospital release, Chloe Robinson found solace in the familiar chaos of Brooklyn, far from the sterile luxury of Henry's Upper East Side domain. She'd rented a modest brownstone apartment in Bed-Stuy, its creaky floors and vibrant street art a balm to her fractured soul. The move was deliberate, a reclamation of roots, a stand against the pressures that had nearly broken her. As days blurred into weeks, recollections trickled in like rain on a parched earth, painting a vivid portrait of her past. 5 years, a marriage born of passion and peril, shadowed by the relentless grind of racial discord. It started with fragments, scents, sounds, sensations that pulled her back. The aroma of Henry's cologne, a crisp blend of sandalwood and citrus, evoked their first encounter at that fateful NYU gala. She'd been 18, fresh-faced and ambitious, her scholarship essay on black representation in beauty, earning her an invite. Henry, already a rising star at 25, had approached her during the cocktail hour, his blue eyes locking onto hers with an intensity that made her pulse quicken. "Your words moved me," he'd said, his voice smooth as velvet. "You're the only voice that resonates in a room full of echoes." Their conversation flowed like the East River at dusk, effortless, electric. He spoke of his vision for inclusive tech investing in underrepresented founders. She shared her dreams of a beauty blog amplifying Black voices. By night's end, champagne had loosened inhibitions, leading to a stolen kiss in the shadows of the venue's garden. But the misunderstanding Alex had alluded to, a hazy night that spiraled into intimacy, leaving Chloe pregnant with doubt, and Henry insistent on responsibility. "I won't let you face this alone," he'd vowed, proposing in a whirlwind that swept them to the altar before whispers could turn to scandals. The wedding in the Hamptons was a spectacle, lavish tents on pristine lawns, guests from Wall Street titans to Hollywood influencers. In a gown that hugged her curves like a lover's embrace, Chloe felt like a queen. Yet beneath the cheers lurked undercurrents. Henry's mother, Eleanor White, her smile brittle as she murmured, "Such a bold choice, dear." The racial tension simmered, unspoken but palpable. Chloe, with her deep mahogany skin and coiled locks, a stark contrast to the sea of pale faces. Society pages buzzed, tech mogul weds, Brooklyn beauty love, or statement. Marital bliss faded swiftly under the weight of reality. Henry's empire demanded his soul, endless meetings in boardrooms overlooking Times Square, trips to Silicon Valley for mergers. Chloe, thrust into this world, grappled with isolation. Melanin Magic's blog flourished initially, reviewing products for diverse skin tones, but Henry's investments in Emily's evergreen beauty created rifts. With her flawless ivory complexion and old money poise, Emily was Henry's confidant, their bond forged in childhood summers at Nantucket Estates. Recollections sharpened a gala in Los Angeles, where Emily clung to Henry's arm, her laughter tinkling like crystal. "Henry, remember our Yale days, so carefree." Chloe, overhearing, felt the sting, a reminder of worlds she hadn't shared. Arguments ensued in their penthouse. Chloe's voice rising. "She's always there, Henry. Is it her, or the comfort of familiarity?" He'd dismiss it, exhausted Emily's family. "You're my wife. Trust me." But trust eroded like sandstone under waves. The pressures mounted microaggressions at events. "You must be so grateful," a socialite once quipped, implying Chloe's luck in snagging a white billionaire. Internal conflicts raged. Chloe questioned her worth, internalized doubts fueled by a society that valorized Eurocentric beauty. She'd pour her heart into her blog, championing Black-owned brands. Still, Henry's company sidelined her reviews when they clashed with Emily's line products, later flagged by the FDA for undisclosed allergens, harming consumers of color disproportionately. One memory hit like a thunderclap, a heated fight after Chloe discovered Henry's $10 million bailout for Emily's brand amid scandal. "It's business," he'd argued, his eyes weary. "She's like a sister." Chloe, tears streaming, had retorted, "And I'm, what, your charity case?" The racial underbelly surfaced. Henry's unwitting privilege closing his eyes to her pain. That night, despair led to the attempt, a cry for visibility in a marriage where she felt invisible. Now, in her Brooklyn haven, Chloe rebuilt. She reconnected with Alex, their late-night talks dissecting the interracial maze. "It's not just love, Chloe, it's fighting systems that say you don't belong." Inspired, she attended a Black Lives Matter rally in Prospect Park, her voice joining the chorus, reclaiming agency. Jordan Brown, Alex's brother and CEO of a rival cosmetics firm in Harlem, offered her a job. "Your voice matters. Let's amplify it." Work became her anchor, reviewing products with unfiltered honesty, exposing inequities in the industry. Yet Henry's shadow lingered. He'd call, voice laced with concern, "Chloe, come home. This amnesia. We'll fix it." But she resisted, her heart torn between lingering affection and newfound strength. A visit from Eleanor added layers. The matriarch, once distant, now softened, admitting, "I was wrong to doubt you. Henry's lost without you." Inner turmoil peaked during a solo walk along the Brooklyn Bridge at sunset, the skyline a canvas of gold and shadow. Recollections flooded tender moments with Henry, stolen weekends in the Catskills, where he'd whisper, "You're my anchor in this chaotic world." But balanced against neglect, the scales tipped. The marital pressures, racial, emotional, societal, had forged her into steel, but at what cost to love? As Chloe navigated this labyrinth of past and present, conviction grew. She'd confront Henry, demand equality, or walk away. The dramatic tension built her soul a battlefield, where love clashed with self-respect, promising revelations that could shatter or heal. The sun dipped low over the Los Angeles skyline, casting a golden haze that danced across the Beverly Hills Hotel rooftop terrace, where the elite gathered like stars in a velvet sky. Chloe Robinson stood at the crowd's edge, her silhouette strikingly contrasting against the opulent backdrop, her deep mahogany skin glowing under the warm lights, her curls cascading like midnight waves. She had ventured here not for the glamour, but for the reckoning that simmered in her veins, a quiet storm brewing since her return to the world of the living. The air was thick with jasmine, and expensive perfume whispers of deals and dalliances weaving through the conversations like silk threads. Henry White, her estranged husband, moved through the throng with effortless grace, his tall frame cutting a path that others instinctively cleared. His fair hair caught the fading light, turning it to strands of gold, and his blue eyes, sharp as sapphires, scanned the room with the precision of a man who commanded empires. Yet tonight, those eyes lingered not on her, but on Emily Green, who clung to his arm like ivy on ancient stone. With her porcelain complexion and emerald gown that whispered of old Hollywood elegance. Emily laughed softly at something Henry murmured, her hand brushing his sleeve in a gesture too intimate for mere friendship. Chloe's heart twisted a delicate ache that bloomed into something fiercer. Jealousy, raw and unbidden, laced with the ambiguity that had plagued their union. She watched as Emily leaned closer, her voice melodic. "Henry, darling, your latest investment in Evergreen is a lifesaver. The FDA scrutiny was a nightmare, but your $10 million, it's more than generous." Henry's response was a nod, his expression neutral, but the familiarity stung Chloe like salt on an open wound. $10 million funneled to salvage Emily's cosmetics line amid allegations of undisclosed allergens that disproportionately affected women of color, the very demographic Chloe championed in her reviews. The ambiguity gnawed at her soul. Was it mere business as Henry claimed, or something more profound rooted in the shared history of privileged upbringings that Chloe could never touch? Emily, daughter of Connecticut aristocracy, had been Henry's confidant since childhood. Yale escapades, family vacations in the vineyard. With her Brooklyn grit and unyielding spirit, Chloe felt like an interloper in their narrative, her presence a bold stroke on a canvas painted in pastels. Drawing a breath scented with the ocean breeze wafting from the Pacific, Chloe approached her steps, measured each declaration of her reclaimed poise. The crowd parted subtly, eyes flickering with curiosity. The black beauty married to the white mogul, a union that still raised eyebrows in these gilded circles. "Henry," she said, her voice a silken thread that cut through the chatter. A word. His gaze met hers, a flicker of surprise, softening his features. "Chloe, you came. I didn't expect—" He trailed off, excusing himself from Emily with a polite nod. They stepped to a quieter alcove, the city lights twinkling below like scattered diamonds. "What's this about?" he asked, his tone laced with the weariness of a man balancing worlds. "It's about her," Chloe replied, her words precise, laced with the elegance of restrained fire. "Emily, your investment $10 million to bail out a brand that's harmed women like me. Allergens hidden in formulas, reactions that scarred darker skin tones more visibly. And you fund it." while I fight for transparency in my work." Henry's brow furrowed, a storm gathering in his eyes. "It isn't very easy, Chloe. Emily's family. Obligations from my grandfather's era. It's not favoritism. It's legacy." But his defense rang hollow, the ambiguity thickening like fog over the Hollywood hills. Chloe pressed her voice a gentle blade. "Legacy or loyalty? She touches you like she owns a piece of your heart. And I wonder if our marriage is the real investment or a diversification strategy." The confrontation escalated as Emily approached, her smile a veneer of sweetness that masked sharper edges. "Chloe, dear, is everything all right? Henry and I were discussing the LA expansion. You should join us. Your insights on diverse beauty could be enlightening." The jab was subtle, a refined thrust, implying Chloe's otherness as a novelty. But Chloe met it gracefully, her response a tapestry of poise and power. Enlightening, like exposing how Evergreen's products violate FDA guidelines. "I've reviewed them. Rashes, irritations, disproportionately on melanin-rich skin. Women trusting your brand only to be betrayed. That's not beauty. That's negligence." Emily's facade cracked, her green eyes flashing with indignation. Accusations without proof. "Henry knows the truth. It's a smear campaign from competitors. And you, Chloe, always so passionate. But passion doesn't win boardrooms." The tension crackled, drawing covert glances from onlookers. Henry intervened, his hand grazing Chloe's arm, a touch that sent sparks through her, a reminder of the passion that once bound them. "Enough. This isn't the place." But Chloe pulled away, her heart a whirlwind of jealousy and resolve. "Then, where is our home, where Emily's calls interrupt our nights, or your office where her crises take precedence?" As the evening waned, Chloe retreated to the shadows, her mind a mosaic of emotions. Jealousy's tendrils wrapped around her, but ambiguity fueled her fire, the uncertainty of Henry's affections, the racial undercurrents that amplified every slight. Back in her Brooklyn sanctuary, she pored over documents, FDA reports on Evergreen's violations, consumer complaints echoing her reviews. The confrontation had ignited something profound, a quest for clarity in the haze of their marriage. Days turned to revelations. Henry called, his voice a velvet plea. "Chloe, let's talk. Emily's just a friend. Our history is platonic." But ambiguity lingered in his hesitations, the unspoken pull of shared privileges. Chloe met him at a quiet cafe in Greenwich Village, the aroma of fresh espresso mingling with the city's pulse. "Friends don't get 10 million lifelines, while wives get sidelined," she countered her words, weaving a spell of truth that compelled him to listen. Henry's defenses crumbled slightly, his eyes reflecting the storm within. "I see now how it looks, how it hurts. But trust me, it's not what you think." Yet as they parted, Chloe's jealousy evolved into empowerment, a romantic yearning tempered by self-respect. She envisioned a love unmarred by shadows, where her black excellence shone without eclipse. The conflict deepened with Emily's retaliation. A subtle social media campaign, posts hinting at misunderstandings in the beauty world, tags that drew Chloe into the fray. Comments flooded interracial drama. "She's out of her depth." The ambiguity of public perception stung, but Chloe responded with elegance, her blog post dissecting Evergreen's flaws with data and dignity, garnering support from diverse influencers. In quiet moments, Chloe reflected on the romance that could be, how Henry's touch once set her world ablaze, his whispers promising eternity. But jealousy demanded resolution, ambiguity, a clarion call to action. As stars blanketed the New York night, she plotted her next move, her spirit a flame that no shadow could extinguish. The crisp autumn air of Harlem carried whispers of change, leaves swirling like confetti In celebration of Chloe Robinson's newfound resolve, she walked the vibrant streets, her steps a rhythmic affirmation against the pavement, each distancing her from the gilded chains of her marriage. The neighborhood pulsed with life jazz notes, spilling from corner clubs' murals, honoring black icons adorning brick walls, a tapestry of resilience that mirrored her own. Here, away from the sterile opulence of Henry's world, Chloe breathed freely, her soul unfurling like a blossom under the sun's tender gaze. The decision to seek independence had crystallized after her confrontations, a quiet revolution blooming within. No longer would she orbit Henry's star. She'd forge her own constellation. Jordan Brown, Alex's charismatic brother, had extended an olive branch, a position at his burgeoning cosmetics firm, Brown Beauty Innovations, nestled in a sleek Harlem loft. "Your voice cuts through the noise," he'd said during their interview, his warm brown eyes reflecting genuine admiration. "We need reviewers who speak truth to power, especially for our community." Accepting the offer felt like shedding skin, a metamorphic twist revealing layers of strength she'd long buried. The office buzzed with energy, diverse teams brainstorming inclusive formulas, walls adorned with affirmations like "Melanin Magic Reigns." Chloe dove in her days filled with testing products, crafting reviews that wove science with storytelling. "This serum doesn't just hydrate," she'd write her words, "a poetic elixir, and it caresses the soul, affirming every shade under the sun." The twist came subtly at first, a revelation about herself unearthed in the quiet hours of creation. Amidst the lab's hum, Chloe discovered a forgotten passion, formulating her own blends, drawing from ancestral recipes her mother had passed down, aloe from Caribbean roots, shea butter's nourishing embrace. "You're a natural," Jordan praised his smile, igniting a spark she hadn't felt in years. But it was more than skill. It was self-discovery, a dramatic pivot from the woman who'd once dimmed her light for Henry's sake. Breaking free demanded courage, a romantic dance with destiny. She blocked Henry's number, the act a silken severance, her heart aching, yet exhilarated. Messages piled up unread, pleas laced with regret. "Chloe, let's rebuild." But she pressed on, renting a sunlit studio in Harlem, its windows framing the bustling streets, like frames of a living painting. Furnishing it became a ritual, vibrant textiles from African markets, books on black feminism, stacking like pillars of wisdom. The tension mounted as Henry sought her out, his presence a shadow in her new dawn. One evening, he appeared at her door, rain-slicked coat clinging to his broad shoulders, eyes stormy with unspoken longing. "Chloe, this separation, it's tearing me apart." His voice, a velvet caress, stirred memories of tender nights, but she stood firm. Her response, a refined symphony of resolve. "Independence isn't rejection, Henry. It's growth. I've found pieces of myself I lost in our marriage." He lingered, the air charged with ambiguity's remnants. But Chloe's twist deepened, revealing her participation in a women's empowerment workshop, inspired by figures like Tarana Burke. There, amid circles of shared stories, she voiced her truths, the isolation of interracial love, the weight of proving worth in white spaces. "I am enough," she affirmed, her words, a balm that healed old wounds. Jordan's firm provided fertile ground for this evolution. A project twist emerged, collaborating on a line for sensitive skin tones. Chloe's insights were pivotal. "Your perspective is gold," Jordan murmured during a late-night session, their hands brushing over samples, a fleeting touch that awakened dormant desires. Yet it was platonic, a mirror reflecting her allure beyond Henry's gaze. The dramatic tension peaked at a Harlem gala for Black entrepreneurs, where Chloe shone in a gown of midnight silk, her curls crowned with gold. Henry attended uninvited, his eyes devouring her from across the room. "You've changed," he whispered, drawing her to a secluded balcony overlooking the twinkling lights. Firmer, more radiant. His admission twisted the narrative I see now how my absences dimmed you. Forgive me. But Chloe's independence was her armor, and her response was a poetic deflection. Forgiveness is a journey, Henry. Mine leads forward, not back. The night ended with her departure, leaving him in contemplative silence, the city, a witness to her emancipation. In solitary reflections, Chloe marveled at her twist, a woman reborn her heart, a garden where self-love bloomed. The romance of freedom enchanted her, a siren's call, promising horizons unbound. As moonlight bathed her studio, she dreamed of futures unwritten, her spirit soaring on wings of newfound grace. The velvet dusk of a Manhattan evening enveloped the city in a shroud of indigo stars, peeking through the canopy of skyscrapers, like shy lovers in the night. Chloe Robinson stood on the balcony of her Harlem studio, the cool breeze whispering secrets against her skin, carrying the faint melody of jazz from a nearby club. In this sanctuary of self, it was here that the rising tension of her heart's turmoil reached a fever pitch, a symphony of longing and defiance that played out in the quiet chambers of her soul. The proposal for divorce, once a whisper in her mind, had blossomed into a resolute decree, yet Henry's pursuit relentless as the tide threatened to erode the shores of her independence. It began with a summons not of courts, but of the heart. Henry's call came at twilight, his voice a silken thread weaving through the phone. Chloe, meet me. Central Park, the Bethesda Terrace. We can't end like this. The invitation stirred a whirlwind within her, the romantic allure of reconciliation, clashing with the fierce autonomy she'd cultivated. She agreed, drawn by an invisible force, her gown a cascade of ebony silk that hugged her curves like a lover's promise. Her curls adorned with subtle gold that caught the lamplight like fireflies. The park was a dreamscape, fountains murmuring sonnets to the moon paths, lined with autumn leaves that crunched softly underfoot. Henry waited by the terrace, his silhouette etched against the glowing arches, a figure of poised elegance, in a tailored suit that accentuated his broad shoulders and lean form. His blue eyes, stormy with unspoken pleas, met hers, and for a moment the world narrowed to the space between them, a charged void, where arguments simmered like embers waiting to ignite. Chloe, he breathed, stepping closer, his hand extending as if to bridge the chasm. This distance, it's agony. Let's talk honestly, talk. But Chloe held her ground, her voice a refined melody of conviction. Talk or delay the inevitable. Henry, I've filed the papers. Divorce, clean, equitable. No prenup means shared assets, but I want only my peace. The words hung like dew on spider silk, glistening with finality. Henry's face paled, a mask of shock fracturing into desperation. Divorce. Chloe. No. We've built something flawed, yes, but real. His pursuit intensified, words tumbling like petals in a gale. Remember our vows. In the Hamptons, I promised to cherish you under that endless sky. I've faltered, blinded by obligations, but my heart, it's yours. Intense arguments erupted their voices, a duet of passion and pain, echoing through the night. Chloe countered with eloquence, her arguments a tapestry of hurt and insight. Cherish. While Emily's crises eclipse our nights, your pursuit feels like possession. Henry, not love. In court they'll dissect our lives, assets in New York law. But what of the emotional ledger? I've given pieces of myself, only to feel like an afterthought in your empire. He paced his hands, gesturing with fervent grace, each movement a plea. Court, we don't need strangers deciding our fate. Let me pursue you anew, dinners in hidden bistros, weekends in the Adirondacks, where the mountains whisper of second chances. His eyes pools of sapphire depth locked onto hers, convincing in their sincerity. I see your strength now, how you've risen like a phoenix from the ashes I helped create. Give me time to prove I'm worthy. The tension coiled tighter, their debate a romantic ballet of wills. Chloe's heart wavered, memories of his touch, a gentle caress that once set her world ablaze, resurfacing like forgotten sonnets. Yet she parried, proof in boardrooms, where your legacy favors Emily's world over mine. Our interracial bond demands equality. Henry, not pursuit laced with privilege's blind spots. As moonlight bathed them, arguments softened into confessions. Henry knelt, a dramatic gesture that stirred the air with vulnerability. I pursue because I love, fiercely flawed. Divorce would shatter me, Chloe. Let's rebuild brick by brick, in the glow of understanding his words, Keo Leo, and persuasive painted visions of harmony, tempting her resolve. But Chloe, her spirit, a fortress of refined steel, withdrew. Love pursues with actions, not words. Until then, the papers stand. She left him there, the park's serenity, a stark contrast to the storm within her heart, a battlefield where tension rose like crescendoing waves. Days blurred into a pursuit that bordered on poetic obsession. Henry appeared at her workplace, a bouquet of orchid symbols of rare beauty in hand, his arrival turning heads in the Harlem loft. Chloe, a moment. He'd implore, his voice a caress that drew her to a quiet corner. Arguments reignited. This job, it's your escape, but from what? Us. I can support your dreams without chains. Her retort, a symphony of independence, support or control. In divorce court, we'll see the truth, shared properties, but my soul remains mine. Jordan watched from afar, his concern a subtle undercurrent, but Chloe navigated with grace her arguments, convincing even herself of the necessity for freedom. Nights brought letters handwritten on fine parchment delivered by courier under starlit skies. My dearest Chloe, one began. Your absence is a void no empire can fill. Pursue me as I pursue you. Let's argue until dawn, until love wins. The words tinte and heartfelt tugged at her, evoking romantic reveries of tangled sheets and whispered promises. Yet she resisted, and her responses were measured. Pursuit without change is folly, Henry. The tension builds, but so does my certainty. The climax of this rising storm came at a charity gala in the Metropolitan Museum, where art's timeless beauty framed their confrontation. Henry cornered her amid sculptures of eternal lovers, his pursuit peaking. Sign. Nothing. Fight for us in court if needed. But know my heart argues for forever. Chloe, her gown, a vision of midnight allure, met his gaze. Forever demands equity. Your world has tilted against me for too long. Arguments flowed like wine, intense, intoxicating, drawing onlookers' whispers. She's unyielding, one murmured. He's besotted, another replied. Chloe's eloquence persuaded her words, a velvet blade. Divorce isn't defeat, it's rebirth. Pursue that truth, Henry. As the gala faded, tension lingered like perfume on skin, a promise of battles yet to come. Chloe returned home, her heart a garden of conflicting blooms, jealousy's thorns yielding to independence's roses. Henry's romantic and relentless pursuit convinced her of his depth, yet the divorce loomed as a shadow on the horizon of their shared destiny. Under the glittering chandeliers of a Los Angeles courtroom, where justice donned robes of impartiality, Chloe Robinson found herself at the epicenter of a conspiracy's unraveling, a twist that twisted the knife of betrayal deeper while illuminating paths to vindication. The air hummed with anticipation, the scent of polished wood and aged leather, mingling with the undercurrent of whispered speculations. This was no mere legal skirmish. It was a public confrontation, a litigation laced with the drama of exposed secrets and shattered illusions. Emily Green's facade crumbled, like ancient parchment under scrutiny. The twist began innocuously, a ripple in the calm sea of Chloe's burgeoning independence. Whispers reached her through industry channels, Emily reeling from Chloe's reviews, highlighting FDA violations in Evergreen. Beauty's products had filed a defamation suit. Slander, the complaint read, was designed to sabotage a thriving enterprise. But Chloe, her spirit forged in the fires of past trials, saw opportunity in the adversity, a chance to expose the rival's web of deceit. The courtroom was a stage, sunlight filtering through high windows, like spotlights on a grand opera. Chloe arrived in a tailored suit of deep crimson, a color that evoked passion's flame, her presence commanding respect from the assembled press and peers. Emily sat across the aisle, her emerald eyes narrowed in feigned innocence, flanked by lawyers whose suits screamed old money. Subpoenaed as a witness, Henry occupied a neutral seat, his expression a mask of conflicted loyalty, his pursuit now entangled in this legal labyrinth. As proceedings commenced, the judge's gavel fell like thunder, heralding the confrontation. Emily's counsel painted Chloe as a vengeful ex-spouse. Ms. Robinson's reviews are not journalism, but jealousy-fueled attacks ignoring FDA clearances. But Chloe's attorney, a sharp-minded advocate from a Harlem firm specializing in consumer rights, countered with elegance. This is no personal vendetta. It protects consumers, particularly women of color, harmed by undisclosed allergens. The dramatic tension escalated as evidence unfolded. Chloe took the stand, her voice a refined orchestration of truth. Evergreen's formulas contain parabens and synthetic dyes banned in progressive markets, causing disproportionate reactions that scarred darker skin. I've tested them myself. Rashes, inflammation. This isn't rivalry, it's responsibility. Her words, keoleo and persuasive, wove a narrative of corporate negligence, convincing the jury of her integrity. Emily's cross-examination revealed the conspiracy's threads. Under pressure, she faltered. Investments from Henry were supportive. No malice. But Chloe's team produced emails hacked ethically through discovery, showing Emily's manipulations. Henry Darling sidelined her blog. It's bad for business. Gasps rippled through the court, the public confrontation igniting like wildfire. Henry's testimony twisted the plot further. Called by the defense, he hesitated, his blue eyes meeting Chloe's in a silent plea. I funded Evergreen out of obligation, family ties. But Chloe's concerns, they're valid. I regret not listening sooner. His admission, a romantic confession amid legal rigor, shifted the tide. His pursuit, now a shield for her cause. Litigation's climax arrived with expert witnesses, dermatologists testifying to harm FDA officials confirming violations. Emily's composure shattered. This is a setup, Chloe's twisting facts to steal Henry. But Chloe's retort from the gallery. Facts don't twist, they illuminate. Your products endanger lives for profit. That's the real conspiracy. The jury deliberated under the weight of revelations, the courtroom a cauldron of tension. Outside media swarmed, headlines blazing. Beauty empire crumbles, rival exposed in high-profile suit. In a quiet antechamber, Chloe reflected on the twist, Emily's downfall, a mirror to her own rise, a vindication that tasted like sweet nectar. Verdict day dawned with poetic justice. We find for the defendant, the foreman announced, awarding Chloe damages and validating her claims. Emily's brand faced injunctions, her empire fracturing like glass under pressure. In the aftermath, Henry approached Chloe. Your strength. It's mesmerizing. This twist, it's awakened me. But Chloe, Her victory, a crown of thorns and roses, replied with grace. Exposed rivals heal wounds, Henry. But our path, it demands more than litigation's echoes. The confrontation closed one chapter, litigation birthing closure, yet the romantic undercurrent persisted, a twist promising more profound revelations in the dance of their destinies. The twilight streets of New York shimmered with a restless energy, the city's pulse thrumming beneath a sky bruised with hues of violet and amber. Chloe Robinson moved through the throng of Manhattan's Flatiron District, her steps purposeful, her heart a kaleidoscope of resolve and lingering ache. The world she'd reclaimed her independence. Her voice as a beacon for black beauty felt vibrant yet fragile, like a melody played on delicate strings. But tonight, that melody would crescendo into chaos, an accident that would unravel the tapestry of her past and propel her into a storm of emotional turmoil, where love and loss danced in a fragile waltz. It began with a whisper of danger, a shadow trailing her through the urban labyrinth. Chloe had been working late at Brown Beauty Innovations, her Harlem office aglow with the soft hum of creativity, as she finalized a campaign exposing systemic bias in cosmetics testing. Her reviews, now a clarion call across social media, had drawn ire not just from Emily Green's faltering empire, but from unseen forces in the industry, those who profited from silence. A cryptic message had arrived that morning: back off or pay the price. She dismissed it, her spirit forged in resilience, but as she stepped onto the rain-slicked pavement, the air thickened with foreboding. The accident struck like lightning. A black SUV, its windows tinted to obsidian, roared from an alley, its trajectory aimed with chilling precision. Chloe froze, time slowing, as headlights seared her vision. But before impact, a force collided with her, a body firm and unyielding, shoving her to safety. The world spun, asphalt biting her palms, and she heard the sickening crunch of metal against flesh. Henry White, her estranged husband, lay crumpled on the street, his fair hair matted with blood, his blue eyes fluttering shut as the vehicle sped away into the night. Panic clawed at Chloe's throat, her scream swallowed by the city's cacophony. "Henry," she cried, crawling to his side, her hands trembling as they pressed against his chest, seeking a heartbeat. Bystanders gathered, phones flashing like fireflies, but Chloe's world narrowed to the man who'd once been her everything. Paramedics arrived, their urgency starkly contrasting to the surreal calm that enveloped her. As they whisked Henry to Mount Sinai, Chloe clung to his hand, her mind a tempest of recollections that surged like waves against a rocky shore. Memories unfurled like petals in the sterile hospital waiting room, under Dawn's touch. She saw their first winter together, snow blanketing their Catskills cabin, Henry's laughter warming her as they danced by a crackling fire. "You're my haven," he'd whispered, his lips brushing her temple. But those moments were eclipsed by darker ones, nights when he'd return from boardrooms, eyes distant, dismissing her concerns about Emily with a wave. "It's just business, Chloe." Yet now his sacrifice spoke louder than words, a reckless act of love that shattered her defenses. Recollections deepened, revealing the fault lines of their interracial bond. A memory surfaced, their wedding, where Eleanor White's icy gaze had pierced Chloe's joy, whispering to a guest, "She's ambitious, but can she handle our world?" The racial divide had haunted them, Chloe internalizing doubts as she navigated elite spaces where her blackness was both celebrated and scrutinized. Another flash, a heated argument after Henry funded Emily's legal battles. Chloe's voice breaking, "Am I your wife, or a symbol of progress?" His silence had been her answer, driving her to the edge that led to her collapse. Now, as machines beeped in rhythm with her pounding heart, Chloe sat vigil by Henry's bedside, his face pale against the stark white sheets. The doctor's prognosis was grim: a concussion, internal bleeding, a coma that hung like a guillotine. "He took the hit for you," a nurse murmured, her eyes kind but piercing. "He's fighting, but it's touch and go." Emotional turmoil swirled a romantic tempest that tore at Chloe's soul. She traced the lines of Henry's hand, calloused from years of building empires, and whispered, "Why, Henry? Why risk everything now?" Her voice broke a melody of love and rage. Recollections repainted him not just the distant tycoon, but the man who'd once stood between her and a venomous gala guest, spewing racial slurs, his quiet strength, her shield. Had she misread him, blinded by her own pain? The night stretched, each tick of the clock a dagger. Chloe's phone buzzed. Alex, her anchor from Brooklyn. "Chloe, I heard. Is he?" Her response was a fragile thread. "He saved me, Alex. But I don't know if I can save us." Alex arrived, his presence a grounding force, and together they pieced the accident's shadows. A tip from a whistleblower at Evergreen Beauty pointed to Emily's desperation, hiring a driver to intimidate Chloe, a plan gone horribly wrong. Action pulsed as Chloe channeled her turmoil into resolve. She contacted Jordan, who rallied legal allies to investigate the hit and run. Evidence mounted encrypted messages linking Emily to a shady contractor, her panic over Chloe's exposés driving reckless choices. The police moved swiftly, detaining Emily for questioning her polished facade, cracking under scrutiny. Yet, the emotional climax lingered in the hospital room, where Chloe's heart waged war. She spoke to Henry's still form, her words a poetic lament. "You dove into danger for me, but where were you when I drowned in our marriage? I see your love now, but is it too late?" Tears fell, each one a confession of the love she'd buried beneath, hurt the interracial complexities that had both bound and broken them. As dawn painted the skyline in hues of hope, Chloe stood at the window, the city a canvas of possibility and pain. The accident had been a catalyst, forcing her to confront the depth of Henry's sacrifice and the weight of her own heart. Recollections wove a narrative of love tested by time, promising a reckoning that would either mend or end their story forever. The first rays of a New York sunrise spilled through the hospital window, bathing Henry White's room in a golden glow that seemed to whisper of miracles. Chloe Robinson sat by his side, her eyes heavy with sleepless nights, her heart a fragile vessel brimming with hope and trepidation. Days had blurred into a vigil of whispered prayers and silent battles, each moment a thread in the tapestry of their unraveling love. Henry's coma had held him captive, but now, as his fingers twitched against hers, the air shimmered with the promise of awakening, a transformation that would redefine their shared destiny. The hospital, a fortress of sterile hope, hummed with quiet urgency. Nurses moved like ghosts, their soft footsteps a counterpoint to the monitor's steady rhythm. Chloe's fingers traced the contours of Henry's hand, memorizing the warmth that had returned a lifeline in the storm. His sacrifice, the reckless dive to shield her from that fateful SUV, had cracked open her defenses, revealing a love she'd thought extinguished. But with it came questions sharp as thorns. Could a man who'd neglected her heart truly change? Could their interracial bond, strained by societal shadows, find harmony? Henry's awakening came softly like dawn, creeping over the Hudson. His blue eyes fluttered open, clouded with confusion, then sharpened as they found her. "Chloe," he rasped his voice, a gravelly melody that stirred her soul. She leaned closer, her breath catching her curls, brushing his cheek like a tender caress. "You're here," he murmured, a fragile yet radiant smile breaking through the haze. "I dreamed of you." The moment was a romantic overture, a prelude to confessions that would reshape their world. Chloe's heart trembled, torn between joy and caution. "You scared me. Henry," she whispered, her voice a silken thread weaving love and reproach. "You threw yourself in harm's way." Why? His gaze held hers, a sea of sapphire depths where vulnerability swam. "Because losing you would be my end," he said, his words a poetic vow that pierced her defenses. "I've failed you." Chloe, blinded by ambition, by obligations I thought were duty. But that night when I saw that car, I realized you're my everything. The confession unfolded like a rose in bloom, each petal revealing a transformed man. Henry spoke of his awakening, not just from the coma, but from years of neglect. "I see now how my world dimmed yours," he admitted, his voice trembling with sincerity. "Your strength, your brilliance as a black woman in spaces that tried to silence you, I took it for granted. But no more." Chloe listened, her heart a battlefield, where doubt warred with longing, recollections of their past nights of silence, days overshadowed by Emily's presence, clashed with this new Henry, whose eyes burned with a fervor she'd forgotten. He revealed a hidden truth, a twist that deepened the drama. "Years ago, at a gala, I stood up to a board member who insulted you, called you out of place. I never told you, fearing it'd widen the gap. I fought for you, Chloe, even when I failed to show it." The admission was a thunderclap, shattering her assumptions. She saw it now, the quiet battles he'd waged, the donations to Black Lives Matter he'd made anonymously, inspired by her fire. Yet the pain lingered. She said, "You fought for me in shadows," her voice a refined lament. "But in our home, I was invisible. Your transformation, how do I trust it?" Henry's hand tightened around hers, a lifeline in the storm. "Trust is earned, not given. Let me prove it with actions, not promises. I've cut ties with Emily's ventures and redirected funds to your campaigns." Your voice. "Chloe, it's the future. I want to amplify it, not eclipse it." The hospital room became their sanctuary, where confessions wove a new narrative. Eleanor White arrived, her presence a soft intrusion. Once a skeptic of their union, she now knelt by Chloe, her eyes glistening with regret. "I misjudged you," she said, her voice a tender hymn. "My son's heart chose wisely, but I was blind to your strength. Forgive me, Chloe, for adding to your burdens." The reconciliation with Eleanor was a poignant note in the symphony. Her apology bridged racial divides. "Your family," she insisted, clasping Chloe's hands. "And this child you carry, it's our hope." Chloe's breath caught. She'd shared her pregnancy in a moment of vulnerability, the secret binding them closer. Emotional tension peaked as Henry rose, weak but resolute, his transformation palpable. He led Chloe to the hospital's rooftop garden, where city lights twinkled like stars fallen to earth. Under a canopy of ivy, he confessed a new "I love you, Chloe, not as a symbol, but as my equal, my fire. Marry me again, not out of duty, but desire." The proposal, a romantic crescendo, stirred her soul. Yet Chloe hesitated, her response a delicate dance of truth. "Love is a journey, Henry, not a vow. Your transformation moves me, but trust grows slowly like roots seeking water. Show me day by day." Their reconciliation was tentative, a fragile bud of hope. Henry vowed to change, attending her rallies, championing her work, confronting his privilege. Chloe, her heart, a canvas of healing scars, agreed to pause the divorce, her pregnancy, a tender thread binding them to possibility. As they left the hospital, hand in hand, the city embraced them, a testament to love's resilience. The confession had awakened not just Henry, but a shared dream, one where their interracial love could bloom unmarred by past shadows, in a world they'd reshape together. The New York skyline glowed like a constellation of dreams, its spires piercing the dawn with promises of renewal. Chloe Robinson stood at the edge of a rooftop garden atop a Tribeca penthouse, the city's heartbeat syncing with her own, a rhythm of hope and trepidation. The air was crisp, scented with the faint tang of autumn leaves, and the promise of rain, a fitting backdrop for the emotional climax that loomed. Her heart, once a battlefield scarred by betrayal, now trembled on the cusp of forgiveness, as Henry White's pursuit reached its zenith. Once, a symbol of her liberation, the divorce papers lay unsigned in her purse, their weight a silent challenge to the love they might yet salvage. Weeks had passed since Henry's awakening, his transformation a slow-burning fire that warmed the edges of Chloe's guarded soul. He'd kept his promises, each action a delicate thread, weaving a new tapestry of trust. Their shared penthouse, once a gilded cage, now hummed with intention. Henry attending her Black Lives Matter rallies in Harlem. His presence a quiet rebellion against the elite's skepticism. He'd redirected millions from his empire to fund her campaigns at Brown Beauty Innovations, amplifying her voice as a beacon for inclusive beauty. Yet the specter of divorce lingered, a shadow cast by years of neglect and the racial divides that had tested their bond. Tonight, under a canopy of stars, Chloe awaited Henry, her gown a cascade of sapphire silk that shimmered like the Hudson at twilight. Her curls adorned with a single diamond pin framed her face, a portrait of strength and vulnerability. The rooftop, decorated with fairy lights and blooming jasmine, was a resolution stage, its intimacy starkly contrasting to the public battles they'd endured. Henry arrived, his silhouette a study in elegance, his tailored suit accentuating the broad shoulders that had borne her through danger. Once, stormy with distance, his blue eyes now glowed with a fervor that stirred her heart. "Chloe," he began, his voice a velvet caress. "This place, it's where we first dreamed of forever. I've faltered, but I'm here asking for a chance to rewrite our story." His words, Keoleo, and persuasive, wove a spell of possibility, but Chloe's response was a refined melody of caution. "Forever was a vow we broke, Henry. Your change moves me, but forgiveness is a bridge built slowly, plank by plank." The emotional climax unfolded as they walked the garden's paths, their steps a delicate dance. Henry confessed anew, his voice trembling with sincerity. "I was blind to your pain, your fight to be seen in my world. But I see you now, Chloe, not just as my wife, but as a force, a black woman whose brilliance outshines my empire." He paused, producing a velvet box. A ring, not the diamond of their wedding, but an emerald, its deep green echoing her resilience. "No divorce. Marry me again in truth." Chloe's breath caught the ring, symbolizing renewal, yet her heart wavered. She admitted, "You've fought for me," her voice a poetic lament. "But love demands equity. Our interracial path, society's gaze, your mother's doubts tested me. Can we truly heal?" The plot twist emerged like a comet in the night sky, a revelation that shifted the narrative. Henry led her to a laptop, its screen glowing with a press release he'd drafted. White Enterprises champions diversity partners with Chloe Robinson's melanin magic to redefine beauty standards. It detailed his withdrawal from all ventures tied to Emily Green, redirecting funds to Black-owned businesses, and a public acknowledgement of their marriage as a beacon of interracial unity. "I'm not halting divorce," he said, his eyes locking with hers. "I'm choosing you publicly, unapologetically." The confession cracked her armor, tears glistening like dew on her lashes. "You're rewriting history," she whispered, her voice a symphony of awe and surrender. "But trust, it's fragile, Henry." He knelt the city, a silent witness, and vowed, Then let me nurture it day by day, until it blooms eternal. Forgiveness bloomed in quiet moments, a shared glance, a touch that sparked memories of their early passion. Chloe's pregnancy, a secret now shared, became their anchor. Our child, she murmured, her hand resting on her belly, deserves a love that defies the world's shadows. Henry's hand covered hers, a pledge sealed in starlight. They'll know a world where your strength is their legacy. The resolution deepened at a press conference days later, held in the heart of Times Square. Cameras flashed as Henry stood beside Chloe, his arm around her, declaring, "My wife is my partner, my equal. Together, we'll reshape this industry." Chloe spoke next, her words a refined crescendo. "This isn't just about beauty. It's about justice for every shade, every story." The crowd erupted their applause, a tide washing away past wounds. The divorce papers remained unsigned, tucked away like a relic of a battle won. Forgiveness was not a single act, but a journey, each step a testament to their resilience. As they left the stage hand in hand, Chloe felt the weight of their interracial love lift, replaced by a romantic hope that burned brighter than the city's lights. The climax had resolved not in endings, but in beginnings, a love reborn ready to face the world's gaze with unyielding grace. The spring air in Brooklyn carried the scent of blooming cherry blossoms, a delicate perfume that mingled with the vibrant pulse of the borough's streets. Chloe Robinson White stood on the steps of their newly purchased brownstone in Prospect Heights, her silhouette radiant against the morning light. Her pregnancy had sculpted her into a vision of life itself, her curves softened by the promise of new beginnings, her dark curls cascading like a crown of midnight. Beside her, Henry White, his fair hair catching the sun's rays, held her hand with a tenderness that spoke of battles won and love reclaimed. This was their conclusion, a sweet resolution woven from the threads of struggle, its romance a beacon for a world in need of hope. Their journey to this moment had been a tapestry of trials, each stitch a testament to their resilience. The brownstone, with its warm brick facade and windows framing views of tree-lined streets, was more than a home. It was a sanctuary where their interracial love could flourish without the weight of past shadows. Inside walls, adorned with art from Black creators, vibrant murals, portraits of resilience reflected Chloe's spirit, while Henry's contributions, books on innovation and equality, spoke of their shared vision. The happiness enveloping them was hard-earned, a romantic symphony played on strings of forgiveness. Henry had become a partner in every sense, his days no longer consumed by boardrooms, but enriched by moments with Chloe, morning walks in Prospect Park, where they'd laugh over baby names, or evenings cooking recipes from her Caribbean heritage, the kitchen filled with the aroma of jerk spices and love. "You're my home," he'd whisper, his lips brushing her forehead, each word a vow etched in starlight. Due in the summer, their child symbolized their future horizons, a bridge across divides. Chloe's pregnancy glowed with purpose, her body a vessel of hope. At a prenatal visit in a Brooklyn clinic, the ultrasound revealed a tiny heartbeat, a rhythm synced with their own. Henry's eyes, once stormy, now shimmered with awe. "Our little warrior," he murmured, his hand resting on her belly. Chloe's response was a poetic caress. "They'll carry our strength, Henry, and defy the world's limits." The dramatic tension of their past had softened, replaced by a sweet resolution that resonated beyond their home. Chloe's work with Brown Beauty Innovations soared. Her blog, Melanin Magic, is now a global platform championing inclusive beauty. She'd launched a foundation funded by Henry's empire to mentor young Black women in the industry, her speeches at events like Essence Fest electrifying crowds. Beauty is power. She'd declare her voice a refined melody, and every shade deserves to shine. Henry, too, had evolved his transformation, a romantic odyssey. He'd become a vocal advocate for racial equity, speaking at corporate summits about dismantling privilege. Their joint appearances, Chloe in vibrant gowns, Henry in tailored suits, became symbols of interracial unity. Their love, a narrative that challenged stereotypes. A Vogue feature captured them in Central Park. Chloe's laughter radiant, Henry's gaze adoring, with a headline that read, "Love's Revolution, the White Robinson Legacy." Social impact wove through their happiness, a thread that bound their personal joy to a broader purpose. Chloe unveiled a scholarship for underrepresented beauty entrepreneurs at a Brooklyn community event, funded by their joint wealth. Henry stood beside her, his pride palpable. "My wife taught me love isn't just personal. It's a movement." The crowd roared their applause, a tide of affirmation, a testament to the horizons they'd opened. Yet sweetness was tempered by reflection. In quiet moments, Chloe recalled the pain, the nights of doubt, the sting of Emily's barbs, the weight of societal gazes. But those memories, like shadows at noon, faded in the light of their new life. Henry's devotion was a daily poem, breakfasts, prepared with care notes tucked into her bag. "You are my forever." Their love, once fractured, now shone like polished obsidian, unyielding and radiant. The conclusion reached its crescendo at a sunset picnic in Dumbo, the Brooklyn Bridge, framing their world like a cathedral of steel and dreams. Henry knelt, not with a ring, but with a vow. "Chloe, you've reshaped my soul. Our child, our love, our fight for a better world. It's all you." Tears glistened in her eyes, and her response was a tender sonnet. "We've built a future, Henry, where love transcends. Let's walk it together." As their child kicked within her, Chloe felt the weight of happiness, a love that defied the past, a future that embraced all shades of humanity. The city their witness hummed with promise, its lights a constellation guiding them toward horizons where love and justice reigned supreme.